I'm Julie Herman of Jaybird Quilt and Lazy Girl Designs, and welcome to the Gravity Block of the Month. I'll be here once a month to give an overview of the blocks for that month. We are now in month 3. Month 3 block is called Orbit. So this is the Orbit block, and as we have done the previous months, we will make 2 of each block, different colorways. So here is our aqua blue block, and then here is our reddish maroon block. And we will be cutting hexagons and triangles using the Hex N More Ruler. So let's get started. Working from our gravity pattern books, we're on page 16 to make block 3. And we'll be following the cutting directions that are found on pages 8 and 9. So as I just mentioned, we are in month 3 and doing Orbit. We are again, just like we have the previous months, going to go from 10-inch squares to cut pieces, and from cut pieces to our blocks. And as I mentioned the other months, I am using the tags that I made. If you don't have those yet, the link to sign up is in the caption below, and I will email those to you for free. And those just help you keep your fabrics nice and organized as we are cutting. There's not as much going on this month, but it's always still helpful to stay organized, especially if you are not doing this month to month, if you're doing it in more chunks. I highly suggest that. This month we are going to be cutting hexagons and triangles, and we have not cut hexagons yet, so I'm going to show you how we do that. And then the triangles, we have cut triangles already, but we cut those with the Super Sidekick. So I'm going to show you how to cut them with the Hex N More. You can also cut them with the Super Sidekick. The directions on page 8 of your book show how to cut with the Super Sidekick. And we also cut triangles last month. So now this month I'm going to show you with the Hex N More. The first thing that we need to do though is we need some hexagons. We need, as you can see, a bunch of them for this month. The first thing that we need to do is very similar to what we have done in previous months, which is we need to go ahead and trim this down to a 6.5-inch strip. Make sure that you read the directions for each month. Sometimes it's 6.5, sometimes it's 3.5, 4.5, so forth and so on. And again, you will have the zigzag pinked edges, and you do have enough wiggle room this month that if you want to go ahead and cut your edge straight before you cut your 6.5-inch strip, you can go ahead and do that. One last quick note is that some of the fabrics this month, such as the one that we're looking at right now, really vary depending on where you get your piece in the bolt. So if you look, for instance, this one is really heavy green, and this piece I've got some heavy green over here, more blue here. The piece that is in my actual finish block almost looks like a totally different fabric than this. So just one thing to keep in mind, if your piece is like mine and you have variety, you can decide where you want your hexagon. So do I want it to be more blue if I cut it over here? If I cut it over here, it's going to be more green. I think that's what I'm going to do so that I have it kind of in the middle. So just something to consider. It's not as much a consideration when you're working with fabric, say, for instance, like this one, fabric D. That one doesn't have as much variety, but when you have a fabric with variety, it's just another thing to consider. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my 6.5-inch strip. Now that I have my piece, my cutting directions for a hexagon are on page 9. This is again another moment to think about placement. You can put your hexagon all the way to the right, all the way to the left, more in the middle. You have enough fabric to make whatever decision you want if your fabric is unique. This is not a situation where we need to save the rest of it. So just another thing to consider. I like the green, so I'm going to cut my hexagon more this way. And what I'm going to be lining up here is the hexagon shape, which nests from this corner. And there is a 6.5-inch hexagon, and I have a solid line that goes around. And right now I'm lining up the solid line on the fabric strip and the solid line on the fabric strip. And I'm going to cut this side. Trim, and trim. And now what I need to do is I need to rotate my fabric around 180 degrees and put it back underneath the ruler. And now that I have that cut, I'll be able to align it perfectly underneath my entire 6.5-inch shape. So there's my 6.5-inch hexagon, and I've got my solid line. And that's a really good double check. And so one little trick, sometimes people get excited and they're like going over here when they're cutting, and there's a solid line here, but then it's a knot here. That's a double check. Wait, I'm in the wrong place.
If you cut that too small, you may not have enough fabric to recover. Also, people sometimes do this, which is obviously longer than a hexagon, and then you see there's no solid line there, there's no solid line there. So there should be a solid line around your entire piece when you are cutting your finished cut on any shape with my rulers. So there is my 6.5 inch hexagon. So cut and cut. One thing that I have mentioned in the previous months, but I haven't really shown you yet, is something that you can be doing with your scraps, which is the Stellar Pillow. It's the last spread of your book. So if you flip to that, and it can be made using one 2.5 inch triangle from every fabric that you use to make all of the blocks. And it's the kind of thing that if you want to make it, I suggest going ahead and cutting your fabrics as you go so that you have one less thing to do later on. If you're worried that you don't have enough fabric, you can complete the block and then go back and cut the fabrics. And then I just like to keep these in a small little bag together so that when I get to the end, I have these all cut ready to go. And it really makes for a fun pillow that coordinates with the quilt. Now, just as we have in the previous months, I'm going to take my A and put it on there to mark, now that I have that piece cut, to keep myself nice and organized. Now, B is something I also need a hexagon from, so I'm just going to set that aside for now. And C is where I need some triangles. So as I mentioned, we did triangles last month with the Super Sidekick ruler, and now I'm going to show you how we do triangles with the Hex N More Ruler. The first thing that I need to do here is cut this down to a strip, and for this block I need 3.5 inch triangles. So I'm going to go ahead and take my ruler and cut a 3.5 inch strip. And I think I'm going to need two. I'm just going to cut one to show you here for the demo. So I now have a 3.5 inch strip. Cutting triangles with the Hex N More is super easy because of where they are located on the ruler. So they are located, if you're looking at the ruler the correct way, they're located at the bottom of the ruler. So you turn the ruler around, whether you are right or left, you turn the ruler around so that the main section of the ruler is facing you. And you line up the 3.5 inch line along the strip that you just cut, and then the ruler should line up here, and we're going to cut and cut. And this is the kind of thing that if you have a rotating mat, that could be helpful. I'm just going to cut and then realign it. You never want to cut towards yourself. That's not best practice for cutting. You can definitely get hurt and do things. So I'm just going to realign the ruler and cut. And then I can just work my way down the strip, cutting as many triangles as I need for the block. So as I mentioned, I'm going to need to cut a second strip so that I have the 4 that I need for this block. And if you are more comfortable cutting triangles with the Super Sidekick, that is an option as well, whichever one you prefer. I just like to show you some choices since you probably have both rulers for this project. And then when I'm done cutting all 4, I will go ahead and move my tag onto this piece. Continue following those directions to cut all of your 10-inch squares into hexagons and triangles following the block 3 directions on page 16. Thanks for watching. If this video was helpful for you, be sure to like it, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Show us your progress on your gravity blocks in our Facebook group. We'd love to see how you're coming along with your quilt. The link to the Facebook group is below. I'll be back here in the next video to show you how to piece block 3.